Hey, welcome into the Illini Nation pregame show. It's Illinois at Rutgers today. We are all the way over in New Jersey, and we got the official pregame show gear on here. We didn't plan this, folks, but Joey and I are matching today. Clint Kinley, Joey Wagner with you here. We're here for 30 minutes, and we're just about 90 minutes from kickoff. It is 10:30 here, 9:30 where most of you are watching this. Illinois got kind of a much-needed win last week, both from the win and how they won it.
Yeah, they really looked good in all phases against Michigan State. That third quarter got a little bit hairy offensively. They stalled out, but I thought the defense played probably one of its better games of the season. We're going to get into the third down package that I thought was really important for Aaron Henry and what that defense showed on that. But they needed to get back on track, Glenn. The bye week came at a bad time. Yeah. It was a good time from a health standpoint, which is what ultimately matters. But fans, Illinois players kind of had to sit on two straight losses, the second of which to Minnesota, which really left a bad taste. And you had to sit for a week and wonder, is this another November? Is this another slide through the month? After a fast start, how's this going to close out? And they came out and they beat Michigan State really convincingly, put themselves in a chance to really put them in a good bowl game here in a few weeks.
It was probably the most, I don't know if stress-free is the word, but the most convincing, to use the word that you use, win that Illinois has had this year. I mean, obviously, you can maybe say Kansas, besides Central Michigan and EIU, though. Nebraska was overtime. I mean, Purdue was overtime. So, again, it wasn't just that they won it, but how they won it and the time and place of the win. And then, like you said, you don't go into here we go again mode of November and why can't we get wins? You get one, and now you got an even bigger one this week.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about last week is there were stretches where it's like, if Michigan State can put something together here, it was a close game, but it felt like Illinois was in control for most of it. And then they really kind of had the box score blowout there at the end, 38-16. But you're right, they've set themselves up now. This is kind of the unofficial Citrus Bowl game going right now in the Big Ten for who's gonna have that premier non-playoff bowl game, and Illinois is squarely in the mix, Glenn. And a win here, you could really say pretty comfortably and put him in the driver's seat.
Yeah, obviously you get Northwestern next week, a game that Illinois and his fans expect the Illini to win. So you're looking at it getting an 8th win here with a week to go and feeling really good about where this season is at. I'm not saying nothing else matters after this week if you win, but you feel like we talked about this on our WCI podcast last week, but you feel like this is a season that you could look back at if things continue to trend upward and things continue to get better. You look back at it and say 2024 was the year that we took a big step in that direction.
Yeah, you thought you were saying that about 2022. Right. The difference, I think, is such a key difference, Glenn. 2022, you really limped to the finish line. I mean, it was a rough close to the end of that year. Injuries had mounted. Obviously, they lost that game at Michigan that you really could have argued they should have won. And you just kind of felt it like the momentum kind of stalling out. It was still there a little bit, but not where it was after especially that win at Wisconsin. Now you have a chance to rewrite that. Now you have a chance to – well, maybe there's been moments this season where it hasn't been perfect, and the defense has been has had some questions about it, and the offense, there are a couple games with Luke Altmaier, you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But on the whole, if you zoom out, this has really been a heck of a good season for Illinois. And now it's a matter of closing it strong, getting to where you want to go, getting to probably play a big-time SEC opponent in Orlando at the bowl game. But, man, you just think about what this 3-game stretch, what you thought it was going to be back in August, back in September, where you didn't know, were they going to beat Kansas? Purdue became such an important game. Were they going to go to Nebraska and win? And you thought, wow, these final 3 games, Illinois needs to push to get to 6. They need to push for a bowl game, and now it's pushing for a really top-flight bowl game. That's just a factor of how expectations and how performances change how you view this team throughout the season.
The reality is in that game, probably if Illinois were to get there, you probably get an SEC team that's pissed off they're not in the playoff and take out their anger on you. But that's
But they may be light too, right? They may be a team.
You never know how many guys they're going to have.
A lot of people are headed to the NFL. You know, you see Tennessee mocked in that. You see Texas A&M mocked in that. Georgia depends on. It's probably going to be an opponent that on paper, if Illinois gets there, and I think a win today would go an awfully long way to doing that. Be on paper where you look and say, "Oh, that's maybe not how you want to close the season." But again, opt-outs matter, and we'll see what it looks like. Long way away, Glenn. Yeah. Big one here in Piscataway.
Well, it absolutely is, because let's call it like it is. You lose this one, and even if you win next week, you look at it and say they lost 3 of their last 5 after a really, really good start. I'm not saying that would make it a bad season. I'm not saying that wouldn't make this season probably still you call it a step in the right direction for the program. But you feel kind of like, oh, that was a good season. That was good, but you feel great about it if they win today. And this is kind of one of those in-between games. What I mean by that is you had the Penn State, the Oregon, right? And then you had these games of like, okay, these aren't the best teams in the conference, but they're certainly not the worst. And Minnesota fell into that category. Nebraska fell into that category. And so Illinois has won most of these games against – they basically have beaten, with the exception of the Minnesota game, they've beaten everybody but the very top dogs.
They won their toss-up games, right? There's a lot of toss-up games coming into this. In fact, Michigan early in the season coming into it, you thought, oh, they're not going to beat Michigan. Why would they beat Michigan?
Right.
They do. But then these toss-up games, as you mentioned, the Minnesota, they obviously lost. Kansas, Nebraska, Rutgers is in that conversation. They've won in the margins in those games. I think today's going to be another game like that. We'll get into the special teams. I think that's a big spot here for Illinois. But the offense going last week looked so much better than we had seen it look in the previous few weeks. I thought Luke Altmaier looked like Luke Altmaier again. Pat Bryant, obviously, like he's their big play guy. Sakari Franklin can be that. But Sakari Franklin's also pretty money in that short intermediate range and to pick up first down. So I was really impressed with how the offense looked last week. And by the way, Justin Gray had 3 rushing touchdowns.
He wasn't too bad either. Illinois has played at Nebraska, at Penn State, and at Oregon. 3 of the more difficult environments you'll find. I don't know if this will be on that level today at Rutgers. I'm sure the fans will be here. It's senior day. I'm not insulting any Rutgers fans who somehow ended up on a Carolina Nation pregame show. But I think this is a little bit different than Oregon, and I'm not saying that Illinois didn't have to prepare for it, but maybe you're breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief, like that you're not in just an unbelievable environment.
Well, I can say walking up to media availability this week, usually for road games, it is like hyped-in crowd noise that you could probably hear on Duncan in Champaign, right? But I didn't hear it quite as loud this week. And let's be honest, Rutgers isn't that environment where you gotta assume it's a pseudo-whiteout Penn State or the Oregon Madness. Like, they're gonna have a lot of. This is probably gonna be the most people that Illinois, just in the last few times they've been to Rutgers, that are gonna be here.
Right.
And look, Rutgers could win 7 games. Rutgers could put itself in a position to go to the Citrus Bowl. Like, Rutgers is having a good season with Greg Schiano back at the helm again, and he's got this thing going along. It's just the reality that there are more rowdy environments in the Big Ten than Rutgers, and Illinois has been through a couple of those battles this season.
We did see a plane fly. You see the plane flying over? There was a plane flying over the stadium with a sign that said, "Thank you, seniors."
I did,
I had not seen that before. That was pretty unique. Let's talk about this, the third down package that you talked about on defense. Because I know that was a big thing last week as Illinois got back in the win column.
Yeah, Illinois had been really just not good on third downs for the better part of the season. In the conversation with Purdue in terms of where they were statistically, obviously Purdue is now 1-10 and might not win an FBS
Not a team you want to be in the conversation with.
So Illinois during the open week found a way. This is probably, Glenn, honestly, one of my favorite storylines of the season. Obviously, there's big storylines with Luke and Pat and down the line, but they kind of found this sub package with guys who maybe aren't your ideal size at linebacker or defensive line, and they kind of glued them all together and made it this really fast. I've been calling it the turbo package. They call it the dime package. I hope they revisit that name and find something more creative. But Kanino DeLuga, he's questionable, by the way, today. We didn't see him doing a ton of warm-ups. I'll be curious to see how that plays out. But he played on the defensive line, and he was their fast linebacker. And Malachi Hood, another guy who's really athletic, really fast. Haven't seen him with snaps. Chinna Hunt, Tyson Brooks, Jaheim Clark. All these guys that viewers right now might be like, wait a minute, I haven't heard that name since they recruit or whatever.
Committed,
Yeah, so they kind of found all these, how can we use these guys in a way that's going to get after Aiden Childs, who's a really fast quarterback. So 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, beyond that, they sent out this turbo package, and it really made life difficult for Michigan State and for Aiden Childs. Rutgers quarterback, Aiden Cox-Manis, former Minnesota quarterback, does not have the wheels that Aiden Childs has, but I would expect to see that package again because it was really successful. The caveat being Kanino DeLuga's questionable, not going through the little warm-ups right there, or at least the workout. I don't know if I'd call that a warm-up until they come back out in full uniform. That you maybe wonder what that looks like, but Daniel Brown is a guy we've heard about over and over and over. He's had a back issue that's really not gotten him out on the field. He practiced this week. He is not on the injury report for the first time this season. And that feels like a one
Daniel
for one,
Brown,
right?
when he was at junior college, he was a stud. Yeah. I mean, you can look at the numbers or you can watch the tape or whatever you want to do. And I know it's a different level, but football is football, and that guy can play.
Yeah, and he's like the perfect fit for that sub package. Right. He's not big enough to be an edge. He's got edge skills, but he's not there. He's probably not as fast and as an open space as you like as an inside linebacker, but he can do some. This screams Daniel Brown in for Canino DeLuca if DeLuca can't go. Right. I just think that's really cool. You kind of find these misfits, feels like the wrong word, but these non-prototypical guys and find a role for him at this point in the season when you had to address would have been a really big deficiency in third down conversions. I just thought that was a huge story coming out of last week, and I'm eager to see him go for the next 3 games. Yeah,
Joe Barna is out today. He did not travel with the team. Malik Elsley, the wide receiver, also listed as questionable with Odeluga. As we look at this one, probably the biggest thing that stands out on paper is Rutgers has a pretty dang good running back.
Yeah, Kyle Monunga is exceptional. He's one of the better backs in the Big Ten, and Rutgers is not afraid to use him. I don't think – and look, we've wondered about Illinois' run defense all season. That wondering hasn't really let up for me. Yeah. I still have major concerns about that if you're watching Illinois, especially against a back like Kyle Monunga. And I think if you're saying, okay, well, they stopped Michigan's rushing attack. Well, Michigan couldn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
Nathan Kyle-Griffiths can throw the ball, so you've got to plan for a little bit more. He's probably not the best back they've seen. Devin Neal at Kansas is really good. The Penn State duo, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are really good. But Monunga is awfully good. Right. The bad news for Illinois, Rutgers isn't going to Jeff Grimes this. Yeah. Rutgers isn't going to Andy Kolodnicki at Penn State. Right. If he's running well, they're giving that dude the ball, and you sure as heck got to find a way to stop
Brooks, Texas Tech treatment. We're going to hand it to him. You know.
They will not get bored giving Kyle Monunga the ball. So Illinois got to figure out a way to contain him and see if you can force Kyle McManus, who's been playing so much better in recent weeks, Glenn. Force him into some mistakes and see if you can get after him and get pressure. That third down package, as we talked about, see if you can get that defensive backfield to make a game-changing player. For Gabe Atkins, he's been on a tear so far this season.
Joey Wagner, Glenn Kinley with you. We're here until the top of the hour on the Orlando Nation pregame show. So we got about
are really good here.
15 minutes here. The speakers, it's not only loud, but it's bad. It's not even good loud music. It's left only on one end. We try to shield it as much as we can in our matching jackets here. But Joey, as you've covered Illinois for a while, and is Derek covering men's basketball today? You guys cover it all?
Derek is at the State Farm Center tonight for men's basketball.
Okay. Yeah. Our Courtney Lane Brewer is there. Tristan's on the high school football coverage, so we got it all for you. Have you seen on your boards or from fans on Twitter or whatever, have you seen a raise of expectations? Because I think that fans, maybe even some of the same fans who would have told you that give me 7 and I could die a happy man, now are kind of fired up. And if Illinois goes down 10-0, they're going to be riled up, even though they would have gone into it, which I think is healthy. It's probably also a good to maintain the perspective and not be like, okay, well, this is still a good year. But I think I've seen fans kind of adjust and maybe originally said, yeah, just give me 6 or 7, give me a bowl game. And now they're like, no, we want to compete with anybody. You know?
Absolutely. You've seen that change, and it should change. That is what a healthy program does. It is out-kicks their initial expectations and pushes it forward. I think Brett Bielema would tell you he likes those expectations going and improving. And you're not the team that's like, oh, that'd be cute if that little engine that could got to the Detroit Bowl on Christmas or whatever, right? Like, you want the program to grow in that way. And you start the way that they did, you start to realize, like, hey, 8 wins, 9 wins, we'll see what the bowl game does, 10 wins, like, that's on the table. And that doesn't happen much around here with Illinois. So, they've changed. They should change. Those expectations should keep moving forward for Illinois. And more than anything, Brett Bielema has shown it's possible. There have been games here. We were just going through the box score before this, and I'm not trying no slight to Chase Crouch, but in 2017, he had like 90 passing yards here. Things change. He's not the only one. The Illinois quarterbacks haven't thrown it around here. Yeah. But programs grow, and I think it's really important for this one to keep being that. And the perspective isn't like, it'd be great if they were the 10th or 11th best team in the Big Ten. No, Brett Bielema was the first to be in that upper tier, flirt with that playoff idea every here and again.
No, and it's exciting to see them go after it and get to a level where, again, 10 wins, and you would know better than me, but that's got to have a recruiting impact. And I'm not saying it's going to be the class of 2025, but it might be transfer portal guys, and it certainly might be 26,
Absolutely
27
right.
guys who see Illinois. I mean, and like coaches will touch on this occasionally, but you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think that number next year name matters a little bit for recruits. Illinois 18, 22, 23, 16, like they're always ranked. I'll go visit Illinois.
Yeah, and people come to the stadium.
Right.
It looks a heck of a lot better to bring recruits. I'm with you. I think you want to push this into transfer portal season and ride the wave. You're going to have some key spots, Jason Davis to fill, your wide receiver, definitely one outside linebacker. This is like Gabe Ackes' money-making season right now for him and the way he's playing, what that could mean for the NFL. But, yeah, you want to see Illinois take that into the portal, take that into 2026 when you're pushing for guys like Mount Zion. Shout out to Mount Zion. State semifinals tonight. Mount Zion tight end J.C. Anderson. Dunlap tight end Max Sutter. Keep pushing for those guys. You now see Illinois as a viable place to win.
Yeah.
And you close it strong. And then at 25, you're right, a lot of those guys are spoken for. Illinois is trying to flip some dudes.
Yeah.
Illinois is trying to close with a couple cherries on top of this class. And closing out with 8 or 9 wins, that's not a bad thing when you're trying to flip some of these guys.
Well, and what it becomes for Brett Bielema now is instead of the pitch being, just stay home, which is a good pitch, and guys may having to choose between a highly successful program or staying home and representing their state. Now they can do both in one place. I would imagine that would help him with in-state recruiting. The gates have opened here.
I also want to, real quick, if I could, I want to add, early on in Brett Bielema's tenure in the recruiting cycle, it's, hey, come help us turn this thing around. Come help us. We know what this can be, but we need you to help us turn it around. Now you're saying we need you to help us take us from 8 wins to 10 wins. And now you're pushing that needle forward out. We just talked about expectations with fans. You can say, hey, you, Mr. Tight End, Mr. Offensive Lineman, you can help us. We need you right now. You could have been the difference between another win.
Absolutely. And ultimately what it comes down to is Illinois trying to go from we talked about them being in the middle ground, losing to Penn State, losing to Oregon. They're not with the Ohio States and the Oregons, but they're not with Northwesterns and Purdue maybe, or whoever you want to put in that category. And so what they're trying to do is instead of being in that middle ground, get closer to the top or being one of those top teams. How much longer we got, Charlie? 10 minutes?
That sounds right.
We got 10 minutes here. The gates have opened. There's some fans trickling in. It's a nice day when the sun's out. Yeah. It's the wind. You're kind of shielded in here at the stadium. So the wind. There it is.
Oh, it's good.
Just got like 10 degrees warmer when that sun came out. When the clouds come out, you put on another jacket and put my gloves on. When the clouds aren't here, then I'm actually doing all right.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's November football, man. And let's be honest, Illinois, for the most part this season, has gotten pretty darn lucky in terms of avoiding many of these games. But it's a windy day. Special teams. Hello, that's a good segue.
Let's talk about special teams.
New punter Fabrizio Pinton. Really surprised. That was probably one of my big, outside of the third down package. And that was such a big surprise to me. I didn't know it was really on the radar. I knew Hugh Robertson had struggled the last 2 games. And Pinton comes in, and he had 2 punts, 2 of his 4 punts were 50 or more yards. 2 were inside the 20. Yeah. And I'll be honest, Glenn, we always talk about, I know some of our readers and our fans are tired of hearing that, hey, training camp's closed. I can't tell you. We saw a ton of special teams in training camp, and he really wasn't very consistent. And then you wondered, what's his role? The only time we'd seen him in a game was as a kicker against Iowa, the gifted special team player that was making all those field goals. But we knew he had some punting flexibility. I didn't know it was that. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know he had that ability to go in there with that big of a leg and the hang time. The special teams has been really good, man, and that was a big story. You look at guys like Tanner Heckler, Jaheim Clark as their gunners, the guys trying to jam up opposing gunners. I know for a lot of viewers that's very, very minute, but it's a big deal for why Hank Beatty is 8th nationally as a punt returner. That is Hank Beatty's ability to return punts, to get some of those hidden yards. That's really been a big deal for this Illinois team that needs to win in the margins. That's the way.
I'll tell you what, special teams is almost like being sick. You don't really notice it and think that much of it until it's bad, and then it's an issue. Yeah. When you got a sore throat or something, and you're like, I wish I would have taken for granted all the times when I was healthy. But that's what special teams, you notice it when it's either really, really good or really, really bad. Illinois is certainly on the right side of that. And it's been an interesting year for Illinois special teams because they've now played 2 punters and 2 kickers.
Yeah, that's right. The way they've got this kicker separated, Ethan Machowski's a kickoff, David Alano is a not 60-yard field goal kicker when Machowski goes in. But the punter one was my biggest surprise because I didn't really know it was up for grabs, and I didn't really know Fabrizio was going to be the one to put it there. But it's a huge advantage for them, and Hank Beatty's been a huge advantage. Now, Rutgers, Illinois, Brett Bielema said that they have been practicing for Rutgers punt blocking since the open
which
week,
is interesting.
Which is not normal for them. And Brett Bielema, Greg Schiano, very cut from the same cloth. They recruit the same guys, not because they're so close geographically that they believe in the same things.
Right.
Obviously, Brett Bielema's in New Jersey, and Schiano picks and chooses in the state of Illinois, but they're so similar, and they just zone in on certain things, and special teams is one of those things. And Brett Bielema, there's times you're like, dude, I get it, special teams, okay. But then you see what happened last week, and you're like, I get what you're saying.
Right. The punting can make a world of a difference, man. I mean, a difference in starting a team at the 6 versus the 21, or things that you maybe don't think about to your average fan, but that can make a huge difference. Another interesting thing that Bielema talked about this week was that this is one of the rare games for Illinois that they're not the lesser penalized team in the matchup. Rutgers doesn't hardly ever get flags thrown.
Same cloth, these two. Brett Bielema and Greg Schiano, this tough, smart, dependable. That you hear Brett, never coach a player, you put a camera or a microphone in front of, say it. It's so much. It's like you could say Rutgers is Illinois East or Illinois is Rutgers West, however you want to look at it. There's so much overlap between these two programs. And that's why the line was fluctuating between 1 point either way. Yeah, it was goofy. In fact, there was some line movement. I was asking you before this about if there was an injury I didn't know about because Illinois, I think, was a 1-point dog and then a 1.5-point favorite. Now, last I checked, they were a 2-point dog. I didn't check this morning. It could be completely different, but it's one of those that is kind of just a coin flip. If this game was in Champaign, Illinois would be favored. It's out here, so Illinois is a narrow underdog, but it's two football teams that have shown they can win games, and you get late in the year, and both eligible, but certainly Rutgers will want to play for their senior day, and certainly Illinois wants to play for both Orlando. Want to play for that bigger bowl game. Yeah, or this, again, like I hate to belabor the point, but this is the Orlando. Right. I would be hard-pressed to think the winner of this. Minnesota, Iowa could have conversations. Yeah. Iowa's on its third-string quarterback. A little tough. Minnesota's playing Penn State. So those two might be eliminated in effect by the end of today. Like this could be the Citrus Bowl pending Indiana's presence in or out of the college football playoff, which I would expect them to be in. So, yeah, it's a big one. And when you talk about these games, we just talk about now. I feel like we're screaming when it goes down. But when you start talking about the margins and we talk special teams like we just did, at the end of the day, Illinois got a quarterback who's pretty good. Yeah. And he got back to form. I thought he was really, really in control. Luke Altmaier last week against Michigan State. And I expect that's the Luke Altmaier we've seen all year. That's the Luke Altmaier who's pushed Illinois he's had a heavy hand in Illinois being 7-3. Let's be honest about this. He's your margin, right? He's your guy. When he's in control of this offense, when he's playing like that, he can help take you on the road and win a game at Nebraska, at Rutgers. Like he's a difference maker, quarterback. And Kyle McManus is playing better. He's not playing like the
I think, and tell me if you disagree, Mary Lunny and the Illinois offense have kind of found this balance, in my opinion, with the receivers of like Zakari and Pat, like throwing the football, but yet like finding other things you can do, right? Like not making that the only thing you can do. That doesn't mean you got to get away from it too often, right? Like I think sometimes teams or coaches or coordinators or whoever get like one label and they want to go the opposite way so much. It's like it's almost like we're talking about with the Rutgers running back. Like, hey, if he's good, keep getting the football. Who cares if they say you can't throw? You don't need to throw.
Yeah, they're not going to get bored getting the ball to Pat Bryant and Zakari Franklin. But I think what you've seen, especially last week, Alex Captain Jones had a big catch on third down, a guy that no one probably remembered much of if you're not really, in the weeds in this roster construction. What a big catch for him. You've seen Colin Dixon have moments. We talked about Hank Beatty as a punt returner, but he said today, it's what I had long suspected, that his confidence as a punt returner is translating over to the offensive side. He said early in his career, Glenn, he'd catch it and freeze. And teams would just come and knock the ball off. And whether it be an incomplete pass or a fumble, he just throws. And now it's just football again. So you factor him and Alex Captain Jones and Colin Dixon, and we'll see if Malik Elsie is questionable today to play. But like these compliments around, it feels like every game, one of those guys has some sort of, is it a touchdown? No, but it's a 10, 12, 14, 20-yard play that just, in the moment of that drive, is big, and it's guys who aren't Pat Bryant, who aren't Zachary Franklin.
And I'll tell you what, fans think about how it affects that game and that season, and understandably so, but that stuff certainly doesn't hurt for recruitment and retention. I mean, you're talking about a world where if you're not using them and they think you should be, they're out, right? That quickly. And so to get the guys that you named, get them these catches and get these guys involved in the game plan to let them know that you believe they're capable. And it's not out of charity. It's not we better get him a catch so he doesn't transfer. It's like we believe you're capable, but we don't want to just say it. So we got to show you, and we got to actually put it out there so that you know. Hey, maybe when Pat and Zachary are gone, you're next in line.
Well, and you can't fault anyone for getting the ball to Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin. Those two, one, Pat Bryant's going to be drafted probably on day 2, and Zachary Franklin's a draftable. If not, it's absolutely a training camp guy. Right. Like, you want to get those guys on the field, and they don't get tired, so why would you take them off? Right. You want to get them the ball, but it's to show, like, and there's got to be an understanding. Brett Bielema raved about his wide receiver room and his understanding of everything. Alex Kapka-Jones said, he's like, I mean, hey, those guys are good. Right, like, I get it. I go, does he want to play more? Yes, of course, everyone does. I think he also has the presence to know that, hey, those two are really good. Then you talk about the transfer portal. Illinois should explore wide receivers in the transfer portal because the pitch is pretty good when you're talking about a Pat Bryant, when you're talking about Zachary Franklin, and helping funnel them into the NFL. That might get the attention of some wide receivers in the transfer portal.
And Justin Stepp has coached a lot of really good wide receivers, as many of whom are now playing in the league. We're wrapping up here in the Illini Nation pregame show. Joey Wagner, Glenn Kinley. Let's end with, I like to do these random predictions, like not a score prediction necessarily, but something that you think we might see today. This is not betting advice.
So we do bold predictions on the pod. And last week we were kind of like, maybe not as bold as we wanted, so I went really bold. 2 touchdowns for Tanner Arkin. Okay. Been a little quiet for him. He's a red zone guy. If they get down there, he's a safety blanket. That 2 might be much. I think he'll get in the end zone. But I'm going to go awfully bold on that one.
Okay, I'll say this. I just want to say I don't necessarily have a reason for saying this one. It's more of just a gut feeling. There's nothing I saw on tape or a game plan. Maybe Khalil Valentine gets going a little bit today. It's been a few weeks. We've seen Josh McCray take a bulk of that load, and obviously they'll use Josh plenty. But I wonder if maybe Khalil Valentine's carry count isn't closer to 7 or 8 instead of 3 or 4.
Yeah, I would like to see them use Josh McCray more. Yeah. I mean, he's had, I think it was 7 and 8 touches the last 2 games, and I know they had the by committee thing.
Right.
Josh McCray is running like Josh McCray.
He's running like a starting running back.
Yeah. I would like to see him get the ball a little bit more.
All right. So if my prediction comes true, Joey won't be happy with it. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll have the Brett Bielema post-game show up on our digital channels as well when he comes to the mic. After this game, Illinois and Rutgers. Of course, we'll have Illinois men's basketball for you coverage today, too, and high school football. And Joey will have it all with 24/7 Sports and Illini Inquirer. This has been the Illini Nation pregame show. We'll see you after kickoff.